our TA Leader Series, where we have the privilege of talking to some of the leading people in the industry about what they're doing, what they're thinking about, the questions they're asking, and giving you a little insight into what they're doing. I'm thrilled to have Heidi join us today. Heidi, would you introduce yourself to our audience?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Heidi Chapeau. I'm the Director of Talent Marketing and Attraction at Encompass Health. I've been in the employer brand space for close to 15 years now, working at large healthcare companies, running their employer brand and talent marketing, leading teams, creating EVPs, doing marketing, all the things that involved with talent marketing.
Great, thank you. And one of the reasons I was really looking forward to talking to you and eager to hear what you had to say is you are a data junkie. You love data. You understand that the data tells a very powerful story. And I think a lot of people struggle when that comes to employer brand. What are the numbers we should be looking at? What should we do? Can you just talk a little bit about how you approach that and how you're doing it?
Yeah, it can be really hard to find the right data to tell the story about how your employer brand is successful. And I've really looked at how do you take the data you have available to you and make that into a story. And sometimes you don't have the full picture and you can't say, we saved this money or we hired this person or hired these people because we spent X amount of dollars. But what is the data you do have available to you? Do you have impressions? Do you have clicks? Do you have employer brand reviews on Glassdoor or Indeed? Do you have other data, website traffic, those kinds of things that can help really weave and tell a story over time of where you've been successful? And then I think it's important to take that data and put it into some kind of format that is easily digestible by people. Because just sharing numbers in a PowerPoint or sharing numbers in bullets in an email isn't enough for a lot of leaders to be digestible. So I've really started using what I call like an infographic. So how do you make it visually appealing and interesting to people to really explain things and then also not just put a number, but explain what it means and why it's important. And that's been super successful in helping tell the story of data. Because to me, data has to be like platable and digestible to like tell a story and not just be numbers. So that's where I've seen it be really successful.
Wow, great. And how do you put it in context? How do you help people understand? People can look at impression data and go, "Oh, that's a vanity metric. Who really cares about that?" Well, people don't know about you and haven't seen your content. You're probably not being very effective. But what do you do to put this in context so people understand it?
Yeah, I think a lot of times I have to start from the beginning of what is employer branding and what are we actually trying to achieve, because it's mysterious to a lot of people. So reminding people we're trying to be where people are at when they're making that decision that either I want a new job, I've lost a job, I hate my job today, all those kinds of things. How do we be in the right place at the right time for people to make decisions? And so what trying to explain and remind people of what are we trying to achieve and do? And then this is why that number helps us understand, are we in the right place? Are we hitting the right people? Are we seeing clicks? Are people navigating the website or are they just gone instantaneously because they want nothing to do with us? So how do we really take that and remind ourselves of what are we trying to achieve and what are we trying to do? And then also looking at, I mean, it does come down to looking at, are we seeing an increase in applications? Are we seeing an increase in people, hitting the website? And so some of those numbers are more concrete and easy for people. But a lot of times it's me reminding them, what are we trying to achieve? Because sometimes it is just awareness. Sometimes it's not converting to a hire. It's, I just want to create awareness of us as a brand. And so really looking at those metrics and how do you measure that? I also try to look at what are marketers doing outside of talent marketing. So how are we measuring things in the consumer space that we can take that information and make it work for employer branding? Because then people understand it, right? Because we're all consumers every day and we're all being marketed to every day. So also take a close look at a lot of that stuff too and try to make that more digestible for people in like common language that people understand.
That really helps. Another piece that we talk with clients about all the time is what we're calling intentional hires. As you and I have talked about, there's a increase overall in the number of applicants, and nobody just needs more applicants.
Hmm.
What you need is people who understand who you are, what you do, why your job's important, why they want to work there, that are
Hmm.
intentionally applying. Because if you can increase the percentage of intentional applies, you're running a much more efficient program, right? We hear
Yeah,
people
totally agree.
all,
Yeah.
all the time that are reaching out to candidates who go, "You're calling from where to do what? Oh, I don't want to work there." And that's just a huge drain. So back to your point about being in the right place at the right time, so people do intentionally apply,
Mhm.
because they're much more likely to convert. That's really important. And what kind of response have you gotten? Have you, when you've shared, I love the fact that you're doing an infographic. That's very cool.
Yeah.
What kind of response are you getting? Do people get it? Does it help?
It does help. People love it. We started doing the infographic and then sending out a quarterly recruitment marketing employer branding newsletter. And we send it to leaders at Encompass. We send it to leaders at the company. So people high up, people that are like, we've sent to our CEO. He once responded to me and he was like, I love this. I was like, oh my gosh. So yeah, sending it to people and getting the response and emails back and people understanding and digesting it, it just allows you to, I mean, we don't always do enough to toot our own horns on all the great things we're doing. Again, employer branding can be this mysterious little thing in the corner. And by sharing the data and putting it in a digestible format and then being intentional about sending it out to people on a quarterly basis, it really allows us to be able to tell the story of who we are and what we're doing and making us important. So I've gotten great response, great feedback, good questions, and people just looking forward to, knowing at least once a year or at least halfway through the year, we're going to be sending them some data and some analysis of what's been performing.
Right. I love that. It gives you the opportunity to demonstrate that you're getting better. You're seeing trends, to talk about what's changing out there. I think a lot of leaders who are not connected to TA are oblivious to what's happening in the space. And because of AI and lots of other dynamics going on, things are changing all the time. So anytime that you can educate, and you've got a better educated, whether it's a leader or a hiring manager, you've made your process better. So all of
Agree
that work.
100%. Yeah, I think we forget because we live in this every day, but people don't pay attention to the hiring trends, right? They don't pay attention to the job outlook. They don't pay attention to what are candidates, that candidates are even using AI in the way that they are to search for jobs. And so that gives me an opportunity to also talk about trends and things that are going on to help people understand. One example is why putting salary on our job postings. Like, why are we doing that now? Here's why, and here's why we're meeting candidates where they're at. Because a lot of people, they don't live in that world and they don't understand why some things like that are important.
Yeah, it always surprises me, things that are so central to what I'm paying attention to. Other people look at me blankly
Agree.
and go, oh, so,
Yeah.
and, but, within your organization, you've got to keep people informed. It's the only way you get the kind of support and cooperation that you need. So
Yeah.
I love the cadence of getting out to people. It doesn't sound like you're killing them with overkill with data, but keeping them up to date and hitting the high points, gotta love it. That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah, I think agree. Getting in front of people and reminding them who you are and why you're there and why your function is important is just really important. And you have to tell your own story, or it's just a bunch of numbers and it doesn't
Right.
mean anything if you don't do that.
Right. And what you're accomplishing and what you're succeeding and what you're learning all the time. So all of that's
Yeah.
valuable.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Heidi, I could talk to you about this all day because I love the numbers and I love the data. But if people are interested, are you responsive if they reach out on LinkedIn, if
Yes,
they want to
please
know
look for
more?
me, Heidi Chapeau, Chapeau on LinkedIn. Happy to answer questions, share some sanitized versions of what we've done, but happy to share any insights or thoughts if people want to reach out on LinkedIn.
Great. That's wonderful. Thanks so much. Appreciate you joining us. Thanks.
Yes, thank
Goodbye.
you.